My guest today is Barbara Hayward.
I love telling stories, and I love the stories of my spiritual experiences over that time. I seem to be a lady that just walks into stories, and stories happen around me. I get placed into situations, not thinking there's a story out of it, but there's a story that comes out of it, and I call it the listening to the unheard, listening to the unseen and hearing the unheard, which is quite the paradox. So I started to go out and talk to myself, if you like, or the universe. And the questions back there were quite simple. Time goes on, and I meet a man, and I live in Australia with two young children, and he's a New Zealander. And long short story, we find ourselves in New Zealand to live. New Zealand is quite different to Melbourne. It is cold, and certainly winter is a lot colder. We arrived in New Zealand with very, very limited money. In fact, it was $240 way back when. And, and now we're coming up to winter, and it is cold where we lived. Dennis said to me, look, we've got a pine forest down near the beach. The beach would have been 35 kilometres away, thereabouts. So we can go and get pine cones. And the pine cones, we've got an open fire, and the pine cones will keep us warm. And so we went there, and we took all these bags, and we were going, because, pine forests have got a lot of pine cones. A lot of pine cones. And so we were so excited, and my eldest son was there and with a friend, and we chopped. Not a pine cone to be found. I have absolutely no idea. It wasn't just us, it was other people walking through with no pine cones. So off we go home. And next week, because he works through the week, we went the next weekend, but I took my tomahawk, we took our bags, and I was going to make this happen. Just, the Aussie ingenuity. So the boys started to go the tree, and the forest started to talk to me. It's like, it's not a good idea, Barb. There was other words they said. So I said to the boys, can you come down? Can you just leave it with me? Now, there were other people around. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I selected, and it was interesting you talking about the tallest tree, because the tallest tree in my world is the granddaddy tree. I call it the granddaddy tree. So I looked for the granddaddy tree, and there was this massive pine tree. So I sat with my back to its trunk and cross-legged and in meditation. I said to the daddy pine tree, I said, thank you so much for welcoming us into your forest. And I'm from Australia, and your New Zealand winters are very cold. Would you mind telling me how can we get your pine cones? Where are your pine cones? And I talked about the fact that we would honour the pine cones when we burnt them, that we would feel very blessed while we've got the pine cones, and as the heat warms our house and warms us, that we would be honouring and in appreciation. And I asked the daddy pine tree if it would talk to the other trees around and help us to take the pine cones home. And I gave them thanks for the warmth and all those conversations. And this is a true thing. This really happened. Every story, and I've written it in my book, every story I tell actually happened. There was just a little distance away, there was like an open space, like a circle, if you like, and it was just pine needles, but there was no trees in it. Would have been maybe 15 feet wide in diameter. And there were other people there. I don't know why they were there. There was no pine cones. And I tell you not, the earth opened up, the pine needles separated, and all these pine cones rose out of underneath all the pine cones. all the
Wow.
pine needles. We, that day, us personally, took home 23 large garbage bags of pine cones that lasted us the whole year. We
Wow.
were not the only ones that saw this. The other couples that were there was about 6 other people, like 3 couples, and our mouths were dropped because I've never seen anything like it. And so we were in tears. They were just in awe. They gathered up their pine cones. There was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in this circle of pine cones. They were dry. They were old ones, so we didn't have to dry them. They weren't green. And so when we went home and we stored them away, we also gave thanks. And each time we brought a basket of them in, we gave thanks again, because we fully understood that this wasn't a miracle. It was a miracle in our minds, but what it was nature saying that we have some answers for you if only you would ask the right questions.
Mhm.
And so this was what Crystal was trying to teach me, was to connect. And my connection was my back to the trunk of the tree. And in that vibration of my spirit, of my soul, my awareness, the tree could understand whether I was authentic or not. Because don't think for a minute that if you're harboring negativity or bad thoughts for others in your heart, that the trees won't pick it up. They will pick it up.
Yeah.
Because they're far more in tune than we are. And as we were walking through the forest, I did acknowledge the trees as I left. Of course, we had big smiles on our face, and this is what nature wants, for us to be happy. They wanted us to acknowledge where the pine cones come from, to acknowledge them and to bless them, and then to see the happiness in our heart through our face of appreciation, and us knowing that we didn't do this. We didn't do this.
Right.
We connected with who did do this, and we connected with the oneness, if you like.
Mhm.
And so that taught me a lot. That was a really practical, life-saving, living, everyday experience that showed me the practicality of what nature allows and wants for us as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Your own miracle, right?
Yeah.
To remember all through your life. Ah,
You know,
lovely.
Carla, as I was retelling it, I often think of that experience, whether I'm talking to somebody or not, because that was just such a connection. And it was the mistake I will tell you the mistake I made, if you like.
Mhm.
The mistake I made was not connecting with Granddaddy Tree in the beginning.
Mm.
That I thought I had to force the pine cones, because I sent the boys up the tree with the tomahawk to cut them down. And the tree was telling me at that stage, you are hurting me. You are
Mm.
cutting me. And so I had to bring them down. And they said to me in that moment, talk to us. Talk to us. And so then I was inspired to find the Granddaddy Tree. And the Granddaddy Tree wasn't the tree that I sent the boys up on. It was a different tree.
Mhm.
And so it was really an experience, an education for me, that all nature wants is to us to listen. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things I say to people is, if you've got a beautiful garden and you want those beautiful flowers inside your house, please go and talk to the flowers the day before. Ask them, give them their permission to cut them tomorrow. Could I please cut you tomorrow? Your fragrance is so beautiful. Your vision is so beautiful. I would like that inside my house. Would you mind giving up your space here and coming inside with me? Your flowers will last double the time.